Welcome back to Destination Journey. I just finished mounting this 220-pound rooftop tent on top of my 4Runner all by myself. I'm going to go step by step through the lift that I created to make that possible, just in case you're interested in making one for yourself. But before we begin, if you're interested in all things overlanding, gear reviews, trip videos, or DIY projects like this one, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That helps support the channel, allows me to keep creating this great content. Let's get started.
First up, I'm using some 2x4 and 2x6 lumber for the frame, along with heavy-duty hardware and caster wheels to keep it movable. Powering the lift is a Harbor Freight electric hoist. Simple, affordable, and strong enough for the job. I'm going to get started by getting the measurements for the cross members. I'm using two 2x4s and one 2x6. The side supports are 10-foot 2x6s, but since the 4-foot galvanized tube that's going to be running through the center is meant to support the hoist, all my measurements must be based off of that. Now that the cross members are cut, it's time to prep the side supports, basically the rails the tent will slide on. I'm making a small diagonal cut on the ends that face the 4Runner. That little angle gives me the clearance I need to raise and lower the lift without hitting the vehicle. After making the diagonal cuts, I'll pre-drill holes for the lag bolts. These will secure the rails to the cross members and keep everything tight and square once it's assembled. Now it's time to bolt the cross members to the rails. I cut some 1 1/4 inch spacers to lay on the ground. That way when I drop the cross members in, they sit at the perfect height before I bolt everything together. For the crossmember closest to the vehicle, I went with the 2x6 instead of a 2x4. That gives it a bit more strength and lets me mount the caster wheels further out, so they don't come in contact with the 4Runner. Next, I'm adding storage hooks to the same 2x6. These will act as the attachment points for the lift to hook onto the 4Runner. I'm starting with 4 since they'll be holding quite a bit of weight, but I might add 1 or 2 more later depending on how they hold up. To finish up this section, I'm installing 2 rear casters on the opposite side of the lift. These will make it easy to roll the whole setup into place when I'm mounting or removing the tent. Now it's time to build the support for the hoist. I wanted something that's easy to remove so I don't have to leave the hoist permanently mounted to the lift. I'm using a 4-foot piece of 1-inch galvanized tubing, and I'll drill a 1-inch hole through each rail so the tube can slide straight across. Since I measured the cross members to the right width, I should have about 1 inch of threaded tubing sticking out on each side, just enough to add end caps and lock everything into place. Now I'm building the pivoting support leg. This will hold the lift level with the 4Runner's roof rack once it's raised. First, I'm taking careful measurements to make sure the legs are mounted in the right spot and can swing freely. I'm using the same galvanized tubing setup, drilling 1-inch holes through the side supports so the legs can pivot. The legs themselves are 2x4s, cut to match the exact height of my roof rack when the lift is horizontal. Then I'll add two 2x4 cross members for extra support. One thing to note, the lag bolts on the legs need to be flush with the outside of the 2x4, so they can slide cleanly between the rails without catching. Alright, that wraps up the frame build. Now it's time to roll it over to the Forerunner and test the fit before I install the hoist. Just want to make sure everything lines up and moves like it should. One thing I still needed to figure out was how to get the support leg to swing back under when I'm lowering the lift, especially with the weight of the tent on one side. My solution? A simple bungee cord. Once the lift is raised, the tension helps pull the leg underneath so I can lay it back down without fighting the weight. Alright, time to install the hoist and get the cable system set up. Once that's in place, I'll give this thing a proper test using my lightweight FSR Aspen Lite 10. It's already mounted on the Forerunner, so this will be the first real lift to get it down and see how everything holds up. After sliding the tent off the roof rack and onto the lift, I wrapped two basic straps around it. These straps aren't just for stability, they're what I'll hook the hoist to. The hoist cable gets connected right to the straps, letting me lower the tent safely and in control. The lift works exactly like I hoped. I'm able to safely raise and lower the tent along the rails without any issues. FSR Aspen Lite is pretty light, only about 100 pounds, so it's a good way to test the system. Lifting it to the roof height still takes a little effort, but it's simple enough that I can handle it on my own. Once the tent and lift are removed from the 4Runner, the caster wheels make it super simple to move the tent into the garage. Now for the real test, the TopOak Nebula Rooftop tent. This thing weighs in at 220 pounds and takes up the full roof rack. I've got a review coming up next weekend, so I needed to get it mounted. Normally I'd call in some help from my sons or a friend, but everyone's busy, and that's exactly why I built this lift. Even with the size and weight of the Nebula, everything worked out great. Getting the lift up to the horizontal position took a little muscle, but still way easier than trying to lift this thing with just one other person. Honestly, I'm impressed with how it turned out. I'm sure there are plenty of ways you could build something like this, but I'm happy with the route I took.
All right, that wraps up this project. You know, with all the tent reviews that I've been doing, I'm gonna get a lot of use out of that lift. Do me a favor, support the channel, hit that subscribe button, and I'll see you next time.